Welcome back to the Witch's Way podcast. I'm Jamie.
And I'm Kat, and today we're going to talk about life's tower moments. Those times when it feels like everything is crumbling around us. If you've ever thought, when it rains, it pours, you're not alone. But here's the thing. Those storms clear away for something new and beautiful to grow. Well, they can anyway. Usually that happens. Just sometimes
Later.
It takes us a while to recognize that that's what happened.
It is. Yeah, I totally agree. And today we're diving into how the universe often uses chaos to push us towards transformation.
Oh, man.
Yeah, we're going to explore like what happens when you lose everything and how you can kind of turn that pain into purpose. Let's get started.
Okay. So if you're familiar with tarot, we have a picture. Oh my God, that's so tiny.
It's so tiny, we're going to get closer.
If you're familiar with tarot, you'll know the Tower card. It's a symbol of sudden change, upheaval, and destruction. But here's the thing. It's not just destruction. It's about clearing out a path for something new.
Absolutely. And it takes the skill of reflecting to understand that that's happening, because usually like when you're deep in it, you don't see it. So think about the times in your life when everything seems to fall apart. And I have specific times in my life where I think about things
I can't
just
imagine
fall apart.
Yeah.
Like one after, like toppling dominoes.
Yes.
That's how it's felt.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
Maybe like a breakup or losing a job or just a massive failure. And when I think of failure, I think of like a relationship ending that I didn't think should end. Like that felt like a failure to me. But these moments feel devastating, but they're also opportunities to rebuild.
Absolutely. Oh.
I think of my tower moments, and I have years. Like I can go, I remember in 2020, no, not even, I need to go way back, 2002 to 2003. Like I can think of all of the things that happened to me, and it started with not just things that happened to me, but honestly, it was decisions I made that had, I don't want to say repercussions, but it had an outcome that I didn't expect. And then I just felt like that turned into a bad thing. Then something else happened. And it went from like personal life to work life to spiritual life. Like it started to affect everything. Everything felt like it was falling apart.
Yeah.
So, you know, this was probably the first time as an adult I could recognize my tower moment. And this being in 2002, I was just like 22 years old, right? I'm born in 81.
Yeah.
I got married really young, just for no reason at all, because I could.
Because their mother told her not to.
That's right. So I decided I would do it anyways. Didn't necessarily like him or want to be with him, just thought like this is the next step in what you do, right? You grow up, you get married. Luckily, he wanted to have kids. I did not. I was like, no, the kids are forever. A marriage can be undone with paperwork. Like, that's how I thought of marriage back then. I was very non-committal. That should have told him something about me. Like, maybe I shouldn't marry her, because she's just like...
She's like, oh, this could be undone with paper.
Whip of a pen to make it happen. A whip of a pen to undo it. Like, not a big deal.
Yeah.
But, so I broke that off because obviously that relationship was like, it was bad. It was damaging, and he was no good. And I was kind of suffocating in it. But right after that was when I had my PTSD event in the military, where it was like my whole career was affected, and I went through months of turmoil over that, and like my
years,
future.
You mean years?
Huh?
You went through years.
Well, I mean, just in that year, it was like I didn't feel like it would end. I thought I would get to a good resolution. That's why it ended up lasting years, is because it just didn't resolve itself. I couldn't get to a good conclusion. Yeah. So I lost the relationship, you know, my home, everything. The military, when you get divorced, like they take everything from you. You're like, nope, that you can't have, like I lost my dogs, right? So I couldn't have animals anymore because I was on a ship. You can't own animals and be on a ship.
Oh, yeah.
I did get a new...
You can only live in housing if you're married, right?
You can only live in housing if you're married. So they booted me out of my housing. I had to find a new apartment. Like then when the PTSD thing, I wanted to move commands altogether, and they ended up like transplanted me in Okinawa with none of my stuff, and I was there for 8 months. So I had nothing. I had none of my practice tools. I had none of my witchcraft stuff. I had none of my tarot cards. I had nothing. And in Okinawa, Japan at that time, you couldn't just go out and buy spiritual books. There weren't like tarot cards on a shelf. I could just go replace it and like have a substitute for it, you know? So I literally lost everything but nature, like down to just being in nature and being near the water. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then I lost my command because I ended up getting moved from there to a brand new command, and then they, like, the past command betrayed me by telling the new command like all this shit that happened. So it was like a year of devastating events where I just kept feeling like the floor was taken out from underneath me.
Yeah.
And what I could not see coming is that in that next year that followed, in 2004, I met Cameron's father. And that was like a head over heels experience where I thought, yep, I want to get out of the Navy now and I want to like start a family, which was never in my mind before, ever. I went from like never wanting to have kids to all of a sudden like, yeah, let's have a kid together. What? But
Well, he was really cute at 22 or 23 or whatever.
oh yes, but only to
he's
find out
pretty-
that like he lied about his name and his
pretty
age
handsome.
and all the things.
Yeah.
But I got my son out of it, so like that, I had to go through all that bullshit to figure out that I needed to leave the military to have Cameron because Cameron was going to be part of my story and my adventure. And I wouldn't have done that if all that bad stuff wouldn't have happened. I would have been in the Navy for 20 years. I would have never had children. I would have lived like alone. I would have never had the joy of having animals during those 20 years, you know? So I can see where that whole year of destruction and like laying waste to all my relationships, my friendships, everything that I built in the military, like my security, my house, my tools, my everything was like stripped from me.
Yeah.
And then as I rebuilt, I started to see the purpose of why all of that needed to happen because I would have never left. If it hadn't got that bad,
Yeah.
I would have never left.
Yeah, my tower moment probably most recently had to do with my last relationship. I remember the first time we broke up because it took about 6 years to finally completely break away and end it. The first time we broke up, all of our friends and all the things that we used to do, all of our friends and activities were mixed together. Facebook friends, you know, we would go out and sing karaoke.
And so what year would this be then?
11?
2011?
No, 11?
No, it had to be before that.
No, it was after that. It was not. It wasn't 11. Well, yeah, that was the first time we broke up. That November.
After Daddy passed?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I think so. I don't know. I didn't keep track, but you know, one of the things we used to always do was we'd go out and sing karaoke like
Yeah.
5 or 6 nights a week. You know, that was our fun.
Yeah.
And
that was your hobby together.
That was our hobby together, and we
Yeah.
loved it. And we had all these friends, you know, that we'd see, and I mean, we'd make the rounds and all these, you know, go to different bars for karaoke for different nights. And when we broke up, I couldn't go to any of those places. I was cut off from everything because now he was with somebody new, and I could not handle. You know, I couldn't
seeing
handle
that.
that. You know, I couldn't handle, and yeah, but he got all the friends, and I got the house, and he got all the friends and the activities and stuff.
the social life.
The social life, yeah.
Yeah.
And so that was huge for me. And of course, the universe being what it is allowed me to keep learning that lesson over and over again about why I wasn't supposed to be with that person. Yeah, we still were together for a while after that.
It was a back and forth still.
It was back and forth, but that's the most probably recent thing that I can think of. Of course, if your 20s can be a tower moment, that was probably it for me. Because I was
Yeah.
making all kinds of stupid ass decisions and ending up like having to move in with a friend with my 2 kids because me and my roommate fell out because I got involved with her brother, and you know,
Oh, yeah.
and then the relationship went to shit, and then all of a sudden I didn't have a place to live, and so I had to go live with this girl that I barely knew who was supposed to be a friend, and then she like stole money from me when I didn't have anything, and it was just like, oh my god.
It's just a domino effect of
Yeah.
like another bad thing, another bad
Well,
thing.
when you make when you make the choice of getting involved with your roommate's brother, and then that relationship goes south, and then your roommate's pissed off at you because you got involved with their brother and broke his heart or whatever. I don't know who broke whose heart, but anyway, it was just like that decision there led to a whole bunch of other shit. That decision for
Yeah.
me to get involved with him.
Other consequences.
It led to
Yeah.
so many things, like a falling out between me and her, and we'd been really good friends. I really liked her a lot, but we did not remain friends after that. And that was a bummer, you know, because she was a really nice person, and I really liked her a lot. So,
Yeah.
That was one from when I was young. You know, you
you
were
were
little.
young.
When you
Yeah.
were little.
When I was little.
When you were a toddler,
As a
actually.
baby.
You was a baby. Yeah. Oh, okay. So that's so we're reflecting on our own tower moments, and I'm sure you can think of your own, and I can think of people close to me that
Oh,
I've
yeah.
watched
Seeing tower
go
moments.
through.
Sure.
You know, your sister's year last year was pretty much a tower year.
Yeah.
like one thing after the other.
The year before that
happened.
was too, though. Like 2023 was crazy.
Yeah.
So sometimes when I think about, you know, this thing that's very common, you hear tower moments, I don't necessarily think of it as just moments. It's like sometimes there's tower months and tower years, and
It's like an era.
it lasts. Yeah, the tower era for some. It lasts, and I think that one of the reasons why that happens is because the universe is like, this is gonna get through to you one way or another. I'm going to
Absolutely.
redirect you so that you can get on your higher path, so that you can
Absolutely.
get to that better place.
Yeah.
Because even like
The universe is trying to get you to some place.
It's trying to get you somewhere.
And you're not listening.
you're not listening, or you're repeating the pattern, or whatever's happening.
Yeah.
Like you're not choosing different.
Yeah.
I know that my other big tower moment, of course, and it would be for anybody, is like my dad died, and he died
Yeah.
of cancer very quickly. It was like a sudden, like, you know, they gave him 8 weeks. He was gone 8 weeks later. There was no preparing yourself for that. It was shocking, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And he and I were planning to buy a house together here in Florida. So when all of that, like all of a sudden he just had cancer, and then he passed on 2 months later, it was like, what do I do with my life now? I didn't have a man, you know, I wasn't trying to date. It was just Cameron and I. And it really like threw a wrench into everything, because I didn't know what the fuck to do with myself after that. But from that happening, and then all the things that, you know, it's probably 2 years before I really pulled myself out of it. But in the year that I didn't work through his death, I got fucking roofied at a club. Like, I don't even go to clubs. I don't even drink like that. But I had a beer bottle, and somebody got a roofie into my beer bottle. Luckily, because I've never done drugs, I knew instantly that something was wrong with me, like before it really hit, and I got drove to the hospital. So, you know, I spent a night not knowing what was going on. And when I hear the stories about, you know, everything that happened, it's like, what? It blows my
I saw
mind.
a reel about how easily that happens, and I was
know,
really
yeah.
shocked at how quickly somebody can slip something
Yeah, into a
Doesn't
drink,
it
any
doesn't-
kind of drink.
Well, and it doesn't really matter where you are or how close you think you have a handle on your drink. I mean, the little reel that I saw that showed all these ways that people slip stuff in, I was like, damn, like
I
right in
know.
front of you,
Like, yeah,
right under
you're-
your nose.
And I already knew, like, thinking back, because it's not like I lost consciousness or memory of the event, but I knew I had gone to the bar to get another Mick Ultra. Like, I didn't even drink really back then, so Mick Ultra. And there was a guy at the bar asking me questions about myself, and it's loud, so you're like leaning in to hear, and I'm not looking at my drink. And I know that that's when he had to have done it. And one of the girls said that he was trying to follow us out. Like, where are you guys taking her? Like, where's she going? Blah, blah, blah. I didn't know this guy. Like, it was like, hey, how are you? Like, do you live here? Blah, blah, blah. This is in Columbia, South Carolina. So, then that event made me not want to go out at all. I think I spent a week on the couch afterwards, sort of in like recovery, denial, also feeling really pissed off, you know?
Yeah, hell yeah.
You've got a hell of an ER bill when you, like, the VA didn't pay for that. They're like, this is even more fucked up. It's like, because he didn't rape me and I wasn't physically abused, right? I just got drugged and then drove to the ER. There was no recovering that money. Yeah, there's no, like, nobody's paying for it. So it was
Yeah.
on me. And it's just, so like all the consequences of that is like, what? I was trying to go out and be a little bit normal or social, but the universe was like, that's not really what we had in mind for you. You need to like find your group. Like, don't go out drinking. No, that's not what we wanted you to do.
That's or going out drinking is not where you're going to find where you're supposed to be.
Right.
You're not going to find the people that you're supposed to be with.
Yeah, and that one event like set me back socially so far, because like for a year I wouldn't make friends, I wouldn't go out with anybody. I got invited
didn't
to things.
trust after that,
I didn't,
and who
yeah, I
can
was like,
blame you?
I'm not safe anywhere.
Yeah.
Like, damn, this was at a club early in the evening where it's like, it's a good part of town. You can say all the things, right? It's a good part of town. It's a good club. It's not known for anything like that, but like, you don't know.
Yeah.
So for me, that was sort of it started a tower year that all those little moments collectively together started a tower year where it was like I just closed myself off from everything. But then you know what it brought me?
Your husband?
My husband. I met my husband like the year after that. So, and we were really good friends for like a year, but he was the first guy that I sort of hung out with, and he bought me a drink, and we were able to build trust, and we were friends first. You know, that was what was so important. Yeah. And so now I'm like, all right, I accept all the bad shit because I really like where I'm at. That's where you can get to after tower moments, I think.
You know, which tower moments are actually related to fire, you know,
Oh,
the
yes.
fire element. Fire is a powerful symbol for transformation. It destroys, but it also clears way for new growth, just like a forest. Fire makes space for fresh vegetation. Fire reminds us that even in destruction, there is potential for renewal.
I do have to consider that, like, I had to learn to say thank you to my dad for passing to open up the way for me to find a life partner. Like somebody that I'm going to be with Tony, like, till we both die or I die or whatever. Like, I don't even see anybody after him if he goes before me. And without my father passing away, I could not have this relationship. And this is the healthiest, best thing I've ever had in my life. So when you get to a place after these tower moments or tower years, and you can be like, thank you for all the bullshit. I really love what this
Yeah.
brought me.
Yeah.
This beautiful garden I'm in now. That's hard to recognize.
Well, the first time Tim and I broke up, that led eventually to me moving to Florida. Yeah, I mean that was the end.
That was the thing.
was the final
Yeah.
straw where I sold my house.
Yep.
And was willing to quit my job.
Yeah.
And move 1,000 miles away because the relationship was so unhealthy for me mentally, physically, emotionally. It was so toxic.
Yeah.
That I packed my shit up. I put my house on the market and sold it. I had a contract on it the same day, and 7 weeks later, I was meeting you down in Branson, Missouri to drive
Drive to Florida.
You flew to Branson, Missouri to meet me, and we drove to
Yeah.
Florida together. And even though it took me some time still to heal from all of that, because it was those years of going back and forth with him, and you know, he wouldn't stay away from me any more than I would stay away from him.
Yeah.
So
that's why you have to do the 1,500 mile
yeah,
move.
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, one of us would always be going back to the other one or calling or somebody like, hey, in the middle of the night or whatever, you know, right?
Yes.
Those things that you do with people that you have such like a long ass relationship
It's
with.
so familiar. It's something you can always return to because it's so familiar.
Well, and you know, you can't, the feelings that you have for someone that you've been with for a long time take time to
Dissipate,
yeah, to finally to let go of them. For me, a lot of it was I had invested so much in this relationship that I didn't want to give up, even though I should have given up a long time ago. I should have been
Yeah.
able to see, you know, a little more clearly, but I was like blinded by the feelings that I had, and I let my heart, you know, rule all my decisions. And so it took a couple of years for me to settle in here and kind of not be sad and not be wishing things were different. And I even contemplated a couple times taking him back, you know,
even here in Florida.
which I'm like, I
Thank
did.
the goddess.
Well, you know what, I did, and we even had a conversation about it. And then when I got off the phone, I was like, "What are you crazy? No, no. I already knew it couldn't happen because I knew what was going to happen if we got back together. It'd be the exact same thing as it was in Kansas City.
Yeah.
No fucking different.
Yeah.
And I was unhappy with that. So yeah,
I've definitely learned that you can take people out of the places where they do all the things that you're unhappy with. They will find new people to do all those things that also make you unhappy in the new
Abso-fucking-lutely.
place. Like, it
And they
doesn't
will-
change.
Listen, if
because
you
they're
think you
not
can,
changing.
if you think you can move away from like
Your problems?
habits, like gambling was one of his
Yeah.
habits.
Okay.
Gambling would have been a little harder here because there's not anything really close, but I guarantee you would have found his way to the fucking
Well,
hard
it just
rock
became
and-
legal here now, so we have all these social clubs and all these gambling spots opening
it
up.
did?
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
shit! Yeah, well,
2 years
gambling was
ago?
one of his things,
Okay.
and then yeah, he would have found a way to get to the casinos and then probably stayed there for a week or whatever, just
Yeah.
living in the casino, because that's the kind of shit that he fucking did.
That's crazy.
Just ridiculous stuff. So
Yeah. So I think that the point is, you know, when the universe is trying to burn shit down for you, step back and kind of take a look like, why does this need to be burned down? Like, oh, you know, it doesn't always feel good. I don't think I don't think any of it feels good. And that's where we're going to get into like turning the pain into purpose. But when it's happening to you, I think that there's a longing to get it back, to restore it, to fix
Yeah.
it. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's just me and you, but like I think that's
it's
probably big with a lot of people. Like you want to restore the thing that you had because you're comfortable there.
Yeah.
And what the Tower card does is it breaks you out of your comfortable spot because you need growth, you need change, you need to move forward. There's something else bigger for you out there. It's not where you're at right there.
You know, something to think about if you're going through this, or if you've been through it, is that you're not being punished. The universe, this is not. There might be lessons. I feel like
It's
there
lessons,
are. There
always.
are lessons, but
Yeah.
it's not that
It's
you're
not
being
punishment.
It's
not being
more
smited or whatever that is.
Yeah, you're not being smacked down.
Yeah.
But you are. The universe is trying to redirect you to a different path.
Yeah.
To a better way, to something that is unfamiliar to you,
Definitely
or even
unfamiliar.
unknown to you. Mm-hmm. You know, like you can't see.
You can't see what you're walking into. That's true.
You don't know.
No.
But it's not a punishment. It's like, okay, I'm going to keep giving you these lessons until you start making different choices.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's what I think pushes us to grow. And sometimes we don't get the message and
Yeah.
we repeat the lessons,
Yeah.
you know?
I know I had to repeat that with Tim. It took like 6.5 years or something for the whole breakup thing to finally completely break down to where I was like, yeah, I'm finally done.
Yeah. It's like
I've had it
a little, like the final last straw is the last straw. It's the last straw.
Well, you know, when you're willing to sell your house and move across the country, you've come to the end of the
And
line.
quit your job that you had for like 25 years.
I was willing to leave my job.
Yeah.
Even because
I mean, that's huge for you.
because that
That's
was
your security, that's your everything. Yeah.
My job was my identity.
Yeah.
And it was it was how I supported myself as a single woman. You know, it's like, I'm not rich, I got to work.
Yeah, so now that we've explored what those tower moments are or look like or going through them, let's talk about what happens like when it feels like you've lost everything. That's hard to describe, but okay, no tears. I feel like I'm going to get choked up or something.
Are you?
Well, when you've lost everything, like I can still remember those things. Still not easy. I try not to live in that pain though, you know, but
From your PTSD stuff.
a redirection of your whole life
Oh yeah. Well,
that you planned from when you're a kid.
Yeah.
Big. Yeah.
Don't make me cry.
Sorry, I didn't think I was gonna cry.
Don't make me cry.
So it's that saying, when it rains, it pours. Like
Fuck.
you can handle one thing happening, but then when you have like 5 other things that go wrong in that same time period, I think that's when we really feel defeated and beat down.
Yeah, but you know, I
Yeah.
want to share something, and I want to tell you that I'm proud of you. About
Now I'm
some-
really gonna cry. What are you doing?
Well, over the winter, you had a really tough, I'm going to call it a tough week,
I did.
where you lost 2 vehicles.
Oh yeah, yeah.
There was 2 vehicles, and your son was in,
hospital.
Cameron was in the emergency room with another seizure.
Yeah.
And then something else happened, and I was like, how are you holding it together? And you're like, you know, I'm finally learning to, I can't remember the word. Maybe you can remember how you were feeling then about just like, it's almost like you knew, I think you said something to the effect of that you were being challenged not to let shit like this like take you down
Yeah.
or something like, I can't remember the words that you used, but you had when I asked you about it, because I was like, fuck.
I know. I remember you looking at me going
That's-
like, "How are you holding up?" I was like, "I'm okay." Like,
Yeah,
what?
because you're like, these things are going to pass. I don't know if you said these things are going to pass. This is temporary. It's all going to work out. It's kind of like you were
Yeah.
more reflective, even though like you had like bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
Within like 4 days, Cameron was in the hospital. Jolene's car blew up, and the Jeep
Jeep went
engine,
out,
and
yeah.
the Jeep went out.
Yeah.
And it's just like motherfuck, you know.
It was a tough week, but I think when I think back to when all of that was going on, my mindset was, I can't do anything about this. I'm not
That's
going to freak
it.
out.
You can't do anything
I
about
can't do
it.
anything about this, so I'm not going to freak out. I'm just going to, every day I'm going to be present and do what I can for that day, and then that's it.
Yeah.
That's all I can actually do.
Well, I was really proud of you, and I also felt like you set a good example for me.
Oh.
Because I had some situations come up, like I had a thing, so I started taking, as you know, one of the GLP medications.
Oh, yeah.
And so, you know, this is all an online thing. If anybody's done this before, most of it's online anyway. If you're trying to get it for $300 a month, you're doing it online. You're not going to a doctor and paying $1,300 a month for Ozempic. But anyway, I didn't know I was supposed to get labs done, and the medicine wasn't helping me, you know. And here I'm paying $300 a month, so I'm like, there should be a return on that investment, right?
Like, I should be
seeing
noticing
some
something.
results,
Yeah.
and I'm not. And what happened was I missed the emails or the text message or whatever about the labs, and so I couldn't get an increase in the medication. And at first, I got the labs, and I was like super freaked out about, like, I was really like trying to get them in so I could get the change made and all this stuff. And then I just was like, just let it go, whatever, you know. So you got to go another month before you get an increase. I mean, you're just going to have to accept that. So it's kind of like this place of acceptance, and I realized what that was.
Oh, yeah.
When it came for me. I was just like, just let it go. It's just going to be what it's going to be.
Yeah,
and
you can't change it.
And getting upset about it, or being agitated about it, or pissed off because things aren't moving as fast as I wanted them to move.
Yeah.
When I had that epiphany or whatever it was, it's kind of like, this moment where I was like, it's going to be what it's going to be.
Yeah. That acceptance relieves us of all of the spiraling down feelings and like the being mad. And I feel like that's, at this point, it's just such a waste of energy. I'd rather spend my energy doing or thinking of something else. So I'm like, all right, well, this is the current state. It won't stay this way. I don't know when it's going to change and what's going to happen. I don't have control over that. So I'm going to let go.
Yeah.
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 That's kind of how that went. Not fucking easy, but you know, we've all had those bad times when one bad thing seems to lead to another, and it's like you cannot catch a break.
Can't catch a break.
But I think that there's a shift in perspective, right? That's what we have to have. When you've lost everything, or the shit that you thought was really important and that you thought you would die without, but you lost it and you didn't die, guess what? There's nothing else to lose. When you're at that lowest point, I often think, I know this is so weird, but with numerology, I think of the letter V. People who have the letter V in their names, or if you're just looking and analyzing the letter V, it represents a pit. Okay, so the V is literally a pit that people get into. And so when you have this in your name, it often means that when you're in a pit, there's two perspectives. You can look down and see that, like, all there is down, or you can look up and start looking for a way to get out of the pit, because looking down, there's only one point. But when you're looking up, there's two sides of the pit that you can try to climb out. So there's always more options when you're looking up and away from it, rather than when you're stuck in it and looking down. I know that's such a weird thing to bring up.
No, it's not.
But
it's
a
actually
good
not.
imagery.
Don't give your kids V names. There's the lesson in that.
Just give them supporting letters also.
Oh, okay.
That would be helpful. No, like anybody with Victoria, Veronica, I don't know, like you live in Venice, so it's like V names are okay. The letter alone, just it can represent, you know, an energy of sorts.
Yeah.
And so when I think about that, it's like there's nothing else to lose. Just look up now. Just stop
Yeah.
focusing on the problem.
Well,
you can't do
the
anything
thing about when
it.
you're like at rock bottom or at the pit of the V,
The pit of the V.
you know, it allows you the freedom to try things that you may not have ever considered
That's
before.
true. Yeah.
I would have never thought that I would move to Florida ever in a million. I didn't like Florida. I came to visit my kids after they moved here, and I was like, "Why do you guys live here? It's so
She
crowded.
hated it.
It's so crowded here." And but you know what I realized is like is that I wanted to be around family, so that was the thing that motivated me. But when you get to the point where you're at the very bottom, whatever that bottom is, and you're like, well, what can I try? And you really don't have anything to lose because you're no longer tied to because you're at this place of like where you've burned down to nothing. There's no fear of just trying whatever because what do you got to lose?
Yeah.
You have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Wherever you're going from here has got to be up.
Yeah.
This is the space. This is the place and the space where transformation begins.
It definitely does. When you know that there's nothing else there, you start rebuilding. You start looking at things like, okay, if you lost everything, what would you then choose to put in your life? You know, I think of this with hoarding situations. Like, they're attached to all these material, and this is hoarding,
Yeah.
like not the dirty hoarding where you have a mental illness most likely,
Yeah.
but like where you just keep a lot of shit and you don't really know why, and you feel guilty throwing it away, or you've just kept it, and maybe it's been handed down to you, and you're like, something emotionally keeps you from getting rid of it because it doesn't make sense to keep so much shit. That's where, if everything was taken from your life, what would you choose to put in your house? What would you choose? How would you actually choose to live if you weren't connected to any of your physical stuff?
Well, I
What
gave
would you
up
do?
everything. I gave up all my stuff. I
All
just
your
came
stuff.
with the
One little
sentimental
U-box.
one little U-box and the sentimental things that I had, and started from scratch.
Yeah.
So again, we're going to come back to how fire, the energy of fire plays a role in all of this. When life feels like it's burning everything to the ground, remember that fire also purifies. And I am as a Scorpio, you know, the whole fire, burn it down and rebuild
Yeah.
it, burn it down, rebuild
Rebirth.
rebuild and, you know,
Yeah.
die and be reborn. That has literally been my whole fucking life.
Oh.
My whole life.
When did you realize that pattern, though? Did you always know it, or is it is it more of a spiritual recognizing it now?
No, I didn't always know it. I just know that there's always was a struggle, and then I would get to a good place, and then I would start making decisions that maybe weren't the best, and then I would like get myself in these situations where inevitably things were going to come crashing down on me because of the path that I was on, because I wasn't leading, you know, the life that I was meant to lead, to my higher self.
Right. So do you feel like now, since being here, because I know this has sort of put you on a path to like the fast track in spiritual growth, right?
Yeah.
Because we're together all the time,
Yep.
and I'm just like, all the time you have to be around this like super spiritual, knowledgeable person who's
and
always just like
you know
feeding
what
you
the
shit,
thing
you
about
know?
that is
giving
like,
you all that.
and thank the goddess. Thank the goddess. I love it. I
Yeah.
mean, I love that I'm always around it. And if I need a reminder, I just need to go over to your house and feel the energy there, or do something, or you know, we'll regularly do like readings or something,
Yeah.
and all
Spiritual talk.
yeah,
even being involved with this, like coming
Yeah.
into this with me. Now this
Absolutely.
is always part of your life.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
it is your path now.
This
Yeah.
is the last chapter, if you will, because I'm in my 60s. So this transformation this time is my last chapter, and I hope to just keep
It's your Phoenix
going.
transformation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because
It
as a
is.
Scorpio, if you guys don't know the Scorpio, the 3 transformations of the Scorpio is first they are the Scorpio on the ground fighting for survival. Then they are burnt to the ground and they emerge as the eagle who flies high. Everything's great with the eagle, but the eagle also has things it has to work through. That is eventually burned down, and then it becomes the Phoenix. The
This is my
becomes
Phoenix phase.
So you're
for
in
sure.
your Phoenix phase.
I am.
I love
Absolutely.
that for you.
Yeah.
I wish Pisces had a cool thing like that.
and I do think that, you know, up until I was age 30, which is my Saturn return.
Your Saturn
by the way.
return.
So I had
30 and 60.
Yeah, 30 and 60.
Yeah.
That first 30 years of my life, I was, wrecking things and that had to then be. I was the Scorpion. I was
Yeah.
in survival mode. I was
Yeah.
doing whatever I had to do to get by. And then when I hit 30, and then I got serious about like having a career. And so
Yeah.
then the next 30 years I spent building that career.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I got involved with another person that wasn't the right, I am a rescuer. I like to rescue wounded people.
We
And that-
call it the fixer, fixing the little hurt birds.
Yeah, fixing all the hurt people and thinking that I can solve their problems for them. And so I was involved in that. So that was the second.
That had to be burnt
that,
down.
That was the second thing that I had to let go of,
Yeah.
and all of that. And so that happened at age 60, another Saturn return,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right? And now here I am, risen from the ashes.
Flying as the phoenix.
That's it.
I love it.
Gosh, so speaking of growth, because that's a growth.
That's growth.
We were just talking about
acknowledging the growth.
Let's talk about how we can turn pain into something meaningful.
Absolutely. I think that's what I always try to do, but you don't know it in the moment.
Turning pain into purpose.
Turning pain into purpose.
Pain can be a powerful teacher. Oh yeah. Yeah, I'll tell you, it's definitely a powerful teacher. It's raw, real, and undeniably transformative if we let it be.
Because you can't get stuck looking down
You
in the
can
pit.
absolutely get. I stayed stuck. I stayed doing this thing for from the first time Tim broke up until I finally left Kansas City.
Yeah.
I kept going back.
Yeah.
So if we let it be, it can be transforming. And sometimes, some of us are a little more stubborn.
What?
I would say a little more stubborn, and like we don't really want the lesson, but the lesson keeps
no.
coming back. So the thing to ask yourself when this happens is, what can I learn from this? And I feel like that was the thing that happened with you last year. I think actually you might have said those words.
Oh, sure.
What can I learn from this? Because there was a lot going on for you last winter with
Yeah.
the family, and you're
I was put through I was exposed to lots of different situations.
lots
that
of situations,
I
man.
had
Things
to,
that
like, not react to,
Yeah,
and-
normal people would have probably gone to bed with a bottle of whiskey and just
shit.
been like, "Fuck it, lock the bedroom door. I'm not getting out of bed."
Yeah.
But if you can ask yourself, what can I learn from this, and then use that, or how can I help? How can I use this experience to help other people? And I hope that that's what I'm doing now that I'm finally at this Phoenix phase.
Absolutely.
I'm trying to help other people, other women who've been through similar things.
Absolutely.
I absolutely feel like that's where I'm at.
I think that that's the point of us getting to the crone years.
Yeah.
Is that we stick around as crones because we have so many lessons and so much knowledge that what we're supposed to do with that is help empower the younger women who feel stuck like we did when we were in our 20s and 30s and 40s. Like, that's what we're there. And that's what I think our whole goal is with creating a witchcraft business and having all these different areas where we can reach you, the listeners, and anybody else out there who needs to hear from other women who've been through the shit, rose above it, not always on the first try, and eventually getting there and just being like, you can do it. You can do it. And there's tools and resources and there's stuff. That's the crone mind. That's like what we've gone into in the crone years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think one of the most inspiring examples of this is when people turn their struggles into movements or careers. Like, I didn't know that was going to be my movement or my career change when I left my job in 2020. I'd already planned it before COVID hit, but I didn't realize, I just wanted to help empower women with their spirituality. But now I've found all this other stuff, like talking about my PTSD experience and really helping people through the traumatic parts of life. Not just like, oh, here's all these beautiful tips for empowering your life and making it better. Sometimes you got to go to the dark side first and be like, okay, let's talk about all the pain that you've gone through.
Yes.
And now we're going to we got to work through that so that you can feel like you can practice witchcraft or have a spiritual practice or sit and be with yourself alone, you know? I didn't know that was going to turn into part of it. And I love it.
For witches, pain can fuel our magic. We use it in rituals, channel it into art, or let it guide your connections with the divine. Pain is energy, and energy can be transformed. Here again, we see the influence of fire. Fire takes raw materials and refines them, just as we can refine our pain into something purposeful. Hello, Florida.
You know what I think
And
of?
New Witch Academy of Modern Magic, or
Yeah.
Witch Works.
Witch Works now. We're officially Witch Works.
Witch School, Witch Works, all the stuff that you and I have
Witch's
been doing
Path,
since 2020.
Yeah. I know we've been transforming and refining this idea of how we help women for 4 years now.
Yeah.
5 this year.
Yeah,
It'll be
5
5
this
this
year.
year. But I always think about the one New Witches Q&A that we did, where we got a girl on there who had a disability, and I can't remember what it was, but it wasn't physically evident all the time because she had to use a cane and a walker sometimes because she had I don't know, do you remember the lady who came on?
No, but tell me the rest of the story and I might remember her.
So she had a really hard time because people would criticize her and call her a fake and a liar because her disability was not outward, it was more internal, like somebody in the family that we know that has where all her nerve endings are always firing.
That's a disease. Yeah, that's where you're like always. Yeah,
like
something with an M. I can't remember it. It escapes me right now.
But what was interesting is like she's always been looking for purpose in her life, and she did the normal live the template thing, right? Tried to have a career, was in like real estate or something, raised her kids, did all this stuff, but constantly felt like she was not doing her true calling because there was this other part of her life that was so secret and hidden, and yet it was such a big deal, and it was so scrutinized when people found out. Like she had a tag that for the car, the handicap tag, and people would be like, "You're not really handicapped. Like, look at you, you're walking just fine."
Oh,
shit
yeah.
like that.
Yeah,
it's like you don't know what somebody has,
right?
And you know what I told her, because she had so much to say, she kind of took over the meeting, and when that happens, it's not bad, but it is weird for us because like we're hosting and they just come in, it's like 10 minutes of their story and
longer.
Or longer. And what I told her was, I was like, you should make your own YouTube channel. You should start telling people and educating people about what you have.
I know who you're talking about
so that you no longer feel alone. Like,
I
give
remember
that purpose.
She had a really
hard time.
Traumatic life.
Yeah.
A lot of things had happened to her. Like
so many things that she'd been through, right?
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, use that. I said, you know what? There are people who can hear your story and you will help them because you're on the other side of it now.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what I tell most women who have been through it and been working on themselves, and now they're like, what do I do with this, right? What do I'm like, fucking tell the world, write a book, start a podcast, start a YouTube channel, do anything, get your story out there because you can help people by sharing your story.
This is how you turn pain into purpose and reclaim your power.
Absolutely.
And reclaim your power.
Yes.
And you get to say, for all that, it didn't break me. It made me.
Yeah, it didn't break me. It fucking made me. It took me 15 to 17 years for my PTSD event to realize that it had purpose. That's how fucking long I dealt with that. Hid it, drank it away, didn't get in relationships, all the things.
Yeah.
Until I finally realized, I was like, oh no, I'm not supposed to hide this and shun it. I'm supposed to use this and talk about it.
Yeah.
And the way that I found that out is I went to a Student Veterans Association meeting out in Anaheim, California, and there was a young man from the Marine Corps who had a PTSD sexual encounter that was like really fucked up, and him telling his story on stage to hundreds of us, I was like, oh my God, like I'm like, you're so brave. I can't believe you can talk about this without like crying, breaking down, anything, because his story was traumatic, as a man in the Marines and like the things that happened to him.
I can't even imagine.
I know, right? Like I don't need to get into it, but so he stood up and told all of us, and it brought me to tears, and I was like, oh my God, I need to tell my story. I need to go out there and do something with that.
Well,
and it started my
when you
journey.
start talking about your story, it relieves, I don't know if it relieves some of it or lifts the burden off of you, because it feels like a weight that you're carrying around, this burden that you're carrying around, like shame.
Yeah.
And when you can finally start talking about it and to other people, and then all of a sudden you realize you're not alone, because other people have been through this too.
Yes.
And now suddenly that shame is like, yes, this happened to me, but it doesn't define me.
Yeah. So I love the last thing that you said, that it didn't break you, it made you. Mm-hmm. Like that is truly being able to turn our pain into purpose.
Yeah.
Like to let it have a different life, a different story. You're looking at the tower card.
Yeah, I know in the beginning, we brought out the tower card. You can't see it here, but if you have the rider deck, you can take a look at it. But it shows a tower with people like lightning striking the tower, and then people falling out of the tower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you would think like, oh my, okay,
that's it. It's
the
over,
end.
right?
That's the end. Like people see the death card and get scared, and I was like, oh, this looks way worse than the death card, kind of, Yeah.
So life's tower moments are hard, but they're also opportunities. When it rains, it pours, but the universe is always making way for us to create a new way.
And yeah.
And the rain washes things away.
It does, yeah. Cleansing rain.
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you so much for listening to the Witch's Way podcast. If you found this episode helpful, don't forget to subscribe or leave a review and share it with somebody who might need a little encouragement today, because that is what we're trying to do. Share a story, share your experiences, help other people grow. You're not alone, and this too shall pass. Remember that the next time that you're going through something really hard. You're not alone, and this moment will also pass. Yeah. Until next time, keep turning your pain into purpose and your magic into transformations.
Bye, witches.
Bye, witches.